the purpose of React. And then we discussed why can't we create a front-end application only using React, and then how we can create a front-end application with React tech stack. That is what we have discussed in the last session. And then we got one doubt, like if we can create UI with HTML and JavaScript, if you can create UI with HTML and JavaScript, then why we have to choose React to create user interface. So if you can create your user interface with HTML and JavaScript, then again why we have to learn React for creating the UI. So to understand that, first we need to understand what are the problems we are going to encounter with HTML and JavaScript. What are the problems we have with HTML and JavaScript? So let's discuss that part first. Now we know that using HTML also we can create UI. Using JavaScript also we can create UI. Now to create UI, first we need to create UI elements. So let's create one simple button UI element in HTML. Let's see how we can create. So if I want to create one simple button in HTML, what I have to do? First, I have to create one HTML file. In that HTML file, I have to write some basic HTML code. And then in that basic HTML code, I have to add here one instruction, which we call as a element. Means some instructions, some code we have to write. And then this particular HTML file we have to load in the browser. This particular HTML file we have to load in the browser. Then button will be visible on the screen. Let's see this practically. So for this, I will open VS Code. Let's close all this. And let me create here one file, HTML button .html. So I'm just creating one HTML file. Now in this HTML file, I am writing some HTML code. Like I'm starting with doc type, adding HTML tag, head section, and body section. Now this is basic HTML code. Now inside this body element, I am writing one instruction, that is your button element. And here I will just add the text HTML button. So generally we write like this instruction to create one simple button in HTML. The moment I save my file, and if I load this file in my browser, your button will be visible on the screen. So here button is visible on the screen. So it's very, very simple. Easily we are able to create button. But same button, if I want to create in JavaScript, for that what we have to do? Here also same process we have to follow. We need to create one HTML file. We have to write some basic HTML code. In that basic HTML code, we have to create one script tag. we have to create one script tag. We have to take one script tag, and inside this script tag, we have to write JavaScript code. We have to write JS code to create the button. Let's follow this part. So if I want to create the button in JavaScript, let's see how we can do. In HTML, it is very easy. Creating HTML file, adding basic HTML code, and just writing this one line. Button is created. But now let's see how we can create one button in JavaScript. So for that, I am creating here one HTML file. I will say JS button.html. Now here also first add your basic HTML code like your doc type, HTML tag, head section, body section. Now in this body section, add one script tag. And now inside this script tag, we have to write our JavaScript code to create button. So if you want to create a button in JavaScript, you should be aware of DOM concept. You should know DOM concept. If you know DOM concept, then you can create one simple button in JavaScript. So right now, if you know DOM concepts, it's well and good. In case if you don't know DOM concept, don't worry about what code I am writing. You just focus on the process, what process I am trying to explain. So now here I want to write some JavaScript code to create a button. So how to create a button? For that, we use document object and we call one function called create element. And here we pass something called button. The moment I say document.create element of button, it returns me one DOM element and we call it as a button DOM element. Now using that button DOM element, I can configure the text that I want on my button. So on my button, I want text like JavaScript button. And then I want to make this button visible on this screen. So for that, I am writing here some code. So if I write this code, that button will be visible on the screen. That's it. So if you see, to create one button, I have written 3 lines of code. And if I load this, one button will be visible on the screen. So this is JavaScript button. This is HTML button. So this button is created using HTML language. This button created using JavaScript language. So if you compare the way we created button, you will find that creating the button in HTML is much more easier than creating the button in JavaScript. In HTML, we just written one line of code and button is created. But same UI in JavaScript, we have written in 3 lines. So if you compare these lines, then you will say that creating button in HTML looks easy, but creating button in JavaScript looks little complex. Compared to HTML, creating the button in JavaScript is complex. So here, by seeing this example, we can simply say that in HTML, it is easy to create UI. In HTML, it is easy to create UI. But in JavaScript, it is complex to create UI. In JavaScript, it is complex. It is complex to create UI. So the advantage in HTML is it is easy, but same advantage is like a disadvantage in JavaScript. So in JavaScript, it is complex to create. Let's create one more example. Suppose I want to create one ordered list with 2 list items. I want to create one ordered list with 2 list items. So in HTML, what we do, we just take OL tag. In that we add two LIs. Now the first LI is, in first LI I will add HTML, and in second LI I will add JavaScript. And if I save, and if I go to my browser, and if I refresh, you will see that ordered list is created. So creating ordered list in HTML looks very, very simple. Just you have to take one OL tag and two LI tags. That's it. But same ordered list I want to create in JavaScript. Now same ordered list if I want to create in JavaScript, then first I have to create OL, then I have to create two LIs, LI1, LI2. Then in both the LIs, I have to add some text. Then both these LIs I have to add inside the OL. Then this OL I have to add inside the body element. Means I have to write minimum 5 or 6 lines. Let's see here. First I have to create OL. So to create OL, I will just write same code, document dot create element of OL. Then I need to create two LIs. So where li1 equals to same document dot create element of li. Now I have to create li2. So for that where li2 equals to document dot create element of li2. Then in both the LIs I have to add some content. So li1 dot inner text equals to HTML. In li2 also I have to add the content. li2 dot inner text equals to JavaScript. So if you're understanding this code, it's okay. If you're not understanding, ignore. You just understand the process. Now inside the OL, I have to add my both the LIs as a child. So first I will add li1, then I will add li2. And then this OL I have to add inside the body. So for that I will copy this code and I will add here. And here I will simply pass OL. Now see, just to create one OL with two list items, how many lines of code I have written? 1, 2, like this, 3, 2, 5, and 3, 8. 8 lines of code I have written. And if I observe my HTML, I just written 4 lines of code. And that too, it looks very easy. So now if I go to my browser and if I just refresh here, now li with two list item will be visible. If you observe, UI is same. There is no difference in the UI, but creating UI, the way of creating the UI is completely different. Here this much code we have written and here this much code we have written. So by seeing these two examples, we can clearly say that in HTML, it is easy to create UI, but in JavaScript, it is complex to create UI. But let's suppose I want same UI multiple times. Suppose like this same UI I want to create, I want to show multiple times, more 4 times I want to show. So totally 5 times same UI I want to show. So if you want same UI multiple times, then in JavaScript, what we can do, we can use the functions concept and we can write the code for creating the UI only one time and we can reuse this code multiple times. So in JavaScript, whatever code we have to create UI, this code we can reuse. How we can reuse? Just you remove this code, create one function. In that function, you write this code. You write only one time and then call that function multiple times. For example, I am calling this function totally 3 times. 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. So when I call this function 3 times this code will execute. and 3 times same UI will be visible on this screen. So if I go back here and if I just refresh, I got same UI 3 times. Same UI I got 3 times. So whenever we have a requirement of creating same UI multiple times, then in JavaScript, we can reuse our existing code. But in HTML, we cannot reuse the code. In HTML, we cannot reuse the code. What we have to do, we have to rewrite same code. Like this, we have to rewrite same code. Right now, it is one simple button and one ordered list with 2 list item. You can easily rewrite. But if you have 1,000 lines of code, 10,000 lines of code, then copy pasting that 1,000 or 10,000 lines of code will become very, very, very challenging for us. So in HTML, we don't have any way to reuse our code. We have to rewrite same code. So here also we will get the same UI. So here we have advantage in JavaScript. So what is the advantage in JavaScript? In JavaScript, we can reuse the code. We can reuse the code to create same UI multiple times. But in HTML, we cannot reuse the code. This is the disadvantage we have in HTML. So in HTML, we cannot reuse the code to create same UI multiple times. We have to rewrite same code. So there is now advantage in JavaScript, but disadvantage in HTML. Now, if I want to create dynamic UI means if I click on this button, one image should come here. If I click on this button, one image should come here. And if I click on that image should be removed. Like this dynamic behavior I need. Dynamically, I should be able to create UI. I should be able to remove the UI, or I should be able to modify the existing UI. And how it is possible? This is possible only in JavaScript. So in JavaScript, what I can do on this button, I can write some code, and using that code, I can create one image and I can show on the screen. So here I am just creating one image. So some code I am writing and just creating the image. Now which image we want to display, we can decide that. What should be the width of that image, we can decide that. So I'm just giving here image width and image height. So let me just add here width. So I just created the image. I have assigned some width. I have assigned some height, and this image I want to show on my screen. So simply I will copy this code and I will add here, and here I will pass img. Now which image you want to show, that image URL we have to pass here. So I will just go to some website like Facebook. I will go, and here I will access this image. I will close Facebook and I will add that image URL here. Now, if I go back to my application, if I refresh, now if I click on this button, now one image we got. See, that image we are able to get. Again, if I click same image one more time, it will come. Again, if I click same image one more time will come. Again, if I click same image one more time will come. This is called creating UI dynamically. And now if I click on this image should be removed. So for that, I will write here some code. I will say that on this image, whenever I will click, I just want to remove that existing image. So to remove that existing image, I have to just call one function called remove. Now see here, if I just refresh, there is nothing. If I click on this image, if I click on this image, now if I click on this image, it will be removed. Again, if I click, it will be removed. Again, if I click here, image is generating. If I click on this image, it should be removed. This is called creating dynamic UI. Like this, you can create any UI using JavaScript. But in HTML, we cannot do. We cannot create dynamic UI. So we have one more disadvantage in HTML. We cannot create dynamic UI. We cannot create dynamic UI. In JavaScript, we can create dynamic UI. But the problem with JavaScript is here to create dynamic UI, we have to deal with DOM. So in JavaScript, to create dynamic UI as a developer, we have to deal with DOM. We have to deal with DOM manipulation. Or I can say that in JavaScript, manually we have to deal with DOM manipulation. And dealing with DOM manipulation is very complex. Because we have to remember so many functions, so many objects, which are out of our capability. There are lakhs of functions, lakhs of objects. Now, remembering those many objects and functions is really very tough. Actually, it's impossible for a human, for a developer. Even if you have 30, 50 years of experience, still you cannot master all those functions and objects. That many functions and objects we have. So when you don't know something clearly, then you cannot use it efficiently. It means the DOM manipulation we cannot use efficiently as a developer. And if you are not using DOM manipulation efficiently, it might affect the performance of your application. So here there are certain advantage in HTML. There are certain disadvantage in HTML. In JavaScript also there are certain advantage and there are certain disadvantage. So to overcome these disadvantages of HTML and JavaScript, React.js came into picture. Actually, React not, we can say that to solve this problem, libraries and frameworks came into picture. And one of the library which we are using, that is React. So using library like React, we can easily create the UI. In React, it is very easy. It is very easy and simple. It is very easy and simple to create UI. It is very easy and simple. Second, we can reuse the code. We can reuse the code to create same UI in simple way. Third, we can create dynamic UI. We can create dynamic UI. Fourth, no need of dealing with DOM manipulation directly to create dynamic UI. It means when we are using React, then we will not work with DOM directly. Indirectly, we will work. It means as a developer, you will be abstracted from the DOM manipulation process. Very rarely you might do directly DOM manipulation, very rarely. So that is the biggest advantage we have with React. The most toughest work for a JavaScript developer is dealing with DOM. And that problem got resolved in React, or I can say that problem got resolved in library and frameworks like React. And we have so many frameworks in the market, like we have Angular, we have Vue.js, we have Backbone.js, we have Knockout.js, we have Blazor. There are so many. And when it comes to library, we have a very famous library which is backed by Meta company. Previously, it was known as Facebook, that is React.js. So all these libraries and frameworks will solve this issue, and they are providing these benefits to us. So creating UI is easy and simple. We can reuse the code to create same UI. We can create dynamic UI and no need of dealing with DOM directly. These are the reason why we are choosing React to create UI. So these are the reasons why we are going with React to create user interface. Okay, so we started our discussion in yesterday's class. What is React? In that process, we came to know that React is a JavaScript library. Now, what is library? Library is one predefined function. Library is one file which contains predefined function, object, and classes. With those predefined object, function, and classes, we can create user interface. So React is all about creating user interface. Then we got one doubt. If React is all about creating user interface, same thing I have done in HTML also. I am coming from HTML background. I am coming from JavaScript background. In HTML and JavaScript also, I learned how to create UI. Then again, why I have to choose? Again, why I have to choose React to create same UI? So for that, we started discussing the problems with HTML and JavaScript. So with HTML, there are two problems. We cannot reuse the code. We cannot create dynamic UI. With JavaScript, the problem is creating UI itself is very complex, and creating dynamic UI is also very difficult as we have to deal with DOM. Yeah, anyone any doubts, guys? So to overcome that problem, we are choosing now React. So with React, it is easy and simple to create UI. We can reuse the code to create same UI. We can create dynamic UI, and no need of dealing with DOM manipulation directly to create dynamic UI. These are the advantage why we are going with React. So now with React, we can create UI. Using React.js, we can create UI. But in React, if you want to create UI, you have two ways. In React, if you want to create UI, we have two ways. The first way is using object concept, or we can call it as an object format. and another one is markup format. So in React, we like using React, we can basically create UI. React is all about creating the UI. Now to create UI in React, we have two ways. The first way is using object concept, using object format. Second way is using markup format. So in real time, we use only markup format because it is easy and manageable. Object format, again, it leads to little complexness and not preferred. It's difficult to manage. So we will see both ways. First, I will show you 1 or 2 or 3 examples on this object format. Then we will stick with markup format. And once we learn markup format, till we finish our batch, we will stick with markup format only. Why? Because in real time, 100% people will go with markup format. 100%. No one will use object format. But just for knowledge sake, just for interview sake, we should know how we can use object format to create UI in React. Now, to create UI using object format or markup format, whether you use object format or you use markup format, for that we have to use one language. We have to use one language. Now, in React, we have two languages which we can use. So we have to use here basically one language. If you want to create UI in object format or markup format, we have to use one language. Now, which language? We have two languages now. We can go with two languages. Now, what are those two languages? The first language is JavaScript. We can use JavaScript directly to create UI using object format or markup format. Or we can go with TypeScript. We can go with TypeScript. So we can choose JavaScript or we can use TypeScript. Now, JavaScript and TypeScript, both are 80% both are same. 80% both are same. Whatever concepts you have in JavaScript, all concepts are supported in TypeScript. Everything is supported in TypeScript, but additionally in TypeScript, you have more concepts, you have more features. So for our batch, we are choosing TypeScript. We are choosing TypeScript. But what we will do, initially, we will use JavaScript and then we will switch towards TypeScript so that you will have experience on working both the languages. What is the difference between JavaScript, TypeScript, why TypeScript came into picture, how to work with TypeScript, everything we are going to learn step by step. But initially we will go with JavaScript. Then we will enter into TypeScript. Okay, so now remember our complete focus is on how to create UI with React. That is what we are focusing right now. How to create UI with React. So right now we are going to focus on the part creating the UI. Now, once we know how to create UI using object format, using markup format, using JavaScript, TypeScript, then we will implement other features like how to style and design the UI. So to style and design our UI, we have to learn Tailwind CSS. So we will focus on Tailwind CSS, we will learn Tailwind CSS, and then we will see how we can add style and design. Now, once we understand how to style and design, then we are going to learn how to implement API integration. Now, to implement this API integration, we are going to use TanStack with Axios. Now, once we have done with API integration, then we will learn how to do state management. That is data management. Now, to do this data management, we have to learn Redux. We have to learn Zustand. We have context API. We have props drilling, different techniques we have. Then we will learn data validations, how to implement data validations. For that, we have to learn React hook forms. We have to learn React hook forms. Like this, step by step, we are going to learn all these things. Once we learned all these things, at the end, we are going to create e-commerce application. And when we are creating e-commerce application, now in e-commerce application, we have to implement all these things. We should know how to create UI. We should know how to style and design UI. We should know how we can integrate APIs. We should know how to manage data. We should know how to implement data validations. And when we are working with this e-commerce application, we will use some production grade, how in companies people are taking the services of different technologies and implementing the features. Like we have Clerk, we have ShadCN UI, how people are using this Clerk ShadCN UI, how people are testing the code using RTL, React testing library, how they are writing unit test cases. Like that, we are going to focus how we can implement AI features by integrating our code with AI SDKs that we have in the market. Like OpenAI provides some APIs to us using which we can implement some AI features in our application, how we can do that. So like this, everything will come step by step. But right now, first we will learn how to create UI. And to create UI, as I have mentioned, we have two ways. And to create that two ways, we have two languages. So like this, by analyzing the things, by understanding the things, we are going to proceed. Okay. So today was our last demo session, guys. We have done with 3 demo sessions. Now you have 3 days of time for deciding whether you want to proceed with the batch or you want to drop yourself. If you want to proceed, then just finish your payment process. If you want to drop, you can freely drop it. Now our batch will restart. Our batch will restart from Monday. And only registered students will get the link. Only registered students will get the link. Okay. So you have 3 days of time, that is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can go through again all the 3 recordings. Then if you want, you can analyze our tech stack everywhere, wherever you want in the market, and then you can decide. But before you go to any market, first you go and ask your ChatGPT. For example, I'm just going to the ChatGPT and here I am asking, which is the best front-end stack to create AI-driven applications. If you create any AI application, for every AI application, user interface is required, front end is required. So we are asking which is best front-end stack to create AI-driven application to our ChatGPT. Let's see what answer it will give. So now if you see, the best front-end stack for AI-driven application is Next.js, React, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, ShadCN UI. Then we have Zustand, TanStack query. Here we have AI SDK. And if you want to add visualization charts, that depends upon requirement, you can go with Recharts or D3JS. But if you see here, next React, TypeScript, Tailwind, ShadCN, Zustand, TanStack query, everything we are covering. But let's add our stack to the ChatGPT and ask. So what about this following stack? Now, what is our following stack? The following stack is React.js plus Next.js plus TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, TanStack with Axios. Here I will add TanStack query with Axios plus Redux plus Zustand. We have Clerk. And what else we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. ShadCN UI plus React hook forms with Zod. And finally, we are going to add AI SDK. Now let's ask if I use this stack to create. So that's a very strong modern stack. So these are the things what we have proposed. So overall, our AI is providing 9 as a rating to it. So it is giving us everything. Now, same thing you try to ask to Gemini, you try to ask to Copilot, you ask DeepSeek, you ask Group. Same question you ask. First, you ask which is the best. Then you propose your stack and just check the what answers it is giving. Or else you ask any real-time employees who are working in the market, you just ask them, if I learn all this to become a front-end AI engineer, if I want to become a front-end AI engineer, for that, if I learn all this, is it enough or not? What is my future? You try to ping at least 10 employees who are having 5 years, 7 years of experience in the market on LinkedIn and just propose this stack. Just ask them, I am a new in a front-end engineering, so I am trying to learn, and this is what the tech stack right now I am thinking to learn. So with your experience, can you tell me, is this valid tech stack or not? Do I have any future with this tech stack or not? Do we have any demand in the market with this tech stack or not? You just ask them. Ask any 10 developers. Randomly you ask. Or if you have any relatives, you ask them. Then you will understand. So whether you learn with me or you learn outside anywhere, but you have to focus on this. If you want to be a front-end AI engineer. Or developer. Now, these days, people are doing React course. And in their resumes, they will mention HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, sometimes Redux. And the people who will mention only these things, they are not getting any interview calls right now. Their resumes are not getting selected. Very rarely the resume gets selected. Why? Because now people are expecting all these terms in the resumes. You should have all these terms. Plus, you should mention at least 2 projects. Minimum 2 projects you have to mention. And when you go for interviews now, people will start asking you the question like how you have used TanStack query with Axios in your application. Why you have used it? Now you will be able to answer that queries only if you develop the project. What is TanStack query, how it works, you will be able to explain. But why you have used in your project, how you have used in project, that part you will be able to understand only if you develop the project. That is the reason we have included this project as well. This is too premium to advanced course, guys, for your information. It is not a basic course. So you have to be very uh, strict, very disciplined to learn all these things. But if you learn, trust me, you have great future for next 5 years. No doubts in that. You develop any AI driven application. For every AI driven application, you need front end. You need a front end engineer. You need a front end developer. And right now, this is the topmost tech stack that we have in the market right now. In future, we don't know what will happen because no one can guess the future. But yes, right now for next 3 to 5 years, you have great demand for this tech stack. Okay. Yeah. So that's all guys from my end for today's session. Yeah. If you have any